Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.
And now for your listening pleasure, it's the Brum Picture Show, brought to you by Brum Radio.
Hello and welcome to the Brum Picture Show, the weekly film show brought to you by Birmingham-based community cinema collective Screen B14. Now, those who listened to last week's show, our Mad Max special, will remember that we revealed that the Brum Picture Show presenters Rory and Ben had wandered off into the apocalyptic wasteland and embarked on a bitter feud against each other. We revealed that Rory was being used as Ben's blood bag, and I'm sorry to report that now Rory has been fully exsanguinated, and Ben was victorious in that power struggle. So, needless to say, Rory is never coming back, and Ben is now busy founding a harem in order to sire himself an heir. Which brings us on to today's subject, Nepo babies. That's right. To celebrate, well, maybe that's the wrong word, to acknowledge the release of the film The Watched by Ishana Night Shyamalan, daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, we thought we'd have a chat about nepotism in the movie world. And my goodness, is there a lot of it going on. My name is Paul Vernon, and whilst Rory and Ben may be dead to us, thankfully, as ever, I am joined in the studio by our favourite filmmaker, influencer, and possibly mother of a future Nepo baby, Nadine O'Mahony. How's it going?
Hi, I've tried to Nepo my child, but they're not interested. They don't want. I think they've realised there isn't a lot of money to be had in my industry. They want to do something naff, like be a doctor or a lawyer or something.
What? What's that about? Oh, I don't like the sound of that. No, just she needs to be frivolous and arty.
Yeah.
And poor. And
she's actually, I have to say, in her nursery Christmas play, they asked if she could do both performances because she was that good. She was even as a toddler, she took it seriously, and all the other kids were like crying and wandering off. She was there singing the Christmas tree song.
Aww.
So she could, she's got talent, but no, she wants to do something boring.
Oh, well, how sickeningly noble of her.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining me as always, Nadine. So first of all, on the show, as always, it is the news section. So Nadine, anything catch your eye in the news this week?
Yes, so in honour of the show's theme, I thought I'd look and see what some of our favourite Nepo babies are doing. So Nick Cage, who, if you don't know, is of the Coppola dynasty.
Oh, yes, he is.
Yeah, he played a character in Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse, which was the Spider-Man noir character.
Oh, yes.
And he's going to star in a series for Amazon Prime, so I'll be looking forward to that because I really like that character. And Jake Gyllenhaal, who you may be shocked to learn, is also a Nepo baby.
Oh, my goodness.
As is his sister Maggie.
So who's the patriarch or matriarch of the Gyllenhaals?
His parents are both screenwriters, I believe. But I don't know what their names are. But anyway, Jake will be returning in Roadhouse 2.
Oh, yes.
Which you reviewed on a previous episode.
Yes.
So, and you quite enjoyed it, didn't you?
I did very much. It was utterly pointless, but also did a really good job of being a Roadhouse film. So more of that sort of thing I'd be on board with, I suppose.
That sounds like a good sort of definition for a Nepo baby, sort of utterly pointless. But if they do a good job, we let them stick around. We give them another shot.
Yeah.
Roadhouse 2.
Well, that's exciting news.
Have you got any news?
Well, yes. Well, I didn't get the memo about tying it into nepotism, so I've got a story about a donkey.
Okay.
It's a film donkey.
Is it a Nepo donkey?
I'm not entirely sure. I was trying to trace this donkey's lineage, but I did not find any celebrity donkeys within its family tree. However, I can only assume that to get to this position of fame that this particular donkey has got to, then he must have come from somewhere higher up. So
yeah, must have done.
So yes, so apparently, and I must admit, this was reported on unilad.com, which is
the source of all The best news.
Which is not a news publication I usually follow, but it just appeared somehow on my screen. And I thought, well, that's something I should mention on the show. So yes, the elderly donkey who inspired Eddie Murphy's Shrek character has been awarded $10,000.
What?
Exactly. So apparently there's a donkey at Barron Park Donkey Project in Palo Alto, California, called Pericles. And this donkey was donated to the pasture in 1997, having previously been used as a calming companion for thoroughbred horses. Didn't know that was a thing, that they have some anxious horses and then they just get a donkey in to calm it.
It's very Banshees of Inisherin, isn't it?
I suppose, yes. I suppose he was a calming donkey until the end. But yes, and apparently when Perry's friendship was no longer needed, they shipped him off to this Barron Park Donkeys for a new life, and he's been there ever since. And he is a celebrity in that he inspired the character Donkey in the 2001 movie Shrek. So apparently, the DreamWorks-owned Pacific Data Images came to visit the pasture back when the pre-production of Shrek, and they took many pictures of Perry to learn about what donkeys look like, because they didn't know.
Well, you gotta learn somehow.
They were like, we've written this character who's a donkey, but we don't know what a donkey looks like, so we better get down to a donkey sanctuary, take some pictures. So they learnt about how they move and behave, and they used Perry's likeness for Donkey, but unfortunately the donkey was not credited in the film. And shockingly, Pacific Data Images only donated $75 to the charitable organisation for their time with Perry. Now, donkeys, apparently, they can live for up to 40 years, and as they get older, their medical bills increase, like all of us, I suppose, and it gets to about $40,000 a year.
What?
To pay for a donkey's medical care, which seems insane. So this celebrity donkey Perry is now, thankfully, set to receive a significant donation from Mayor Greer Stone and the Palo Alto City Council, consisting of $10,000, and it's coming.
That's not even enough to cover.
I know, but it's a start.
A year's medical bills.
It will get him through the summer. So that's nice. But apparently this is coming from the City Council's contingency fund, which has $77,000 left to spend. So, to be honest, they should probably give him the rest of it. Because, get him through to Christmas.
Yeah.
So it'll be good. So there you go. That is my donkey film news. Because I thought people would like to hear about that. And one more thing that is also animal related is Hugh Jackman and Emma Thompson are to star in sheep detective comedy 3 Bags Full.
What?
Yeah, exactly. And so apparently this has been penned by The Last of Us creator Craig Mazin? I don't know. So that's an interesting choice. But yeah, it's going to be an Amazon MGM production, and it's going to be a sheep detective comedy. And this is how The Hollywood Reporter refers to it. It's going to have a bar list ensemble cast, which only really works written down. It's like A-list, but with bar at the beginning.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't really work on any level, but that's what they've written. And it's going to star Hugh Jackman, Emma Thompson, Nicholas Braun, Nicholas Galitzine, Molly Gordon, and Hong Chow. So it's going to be a live-action comedy about
live action?
Yeah, live action. So these are going to be real sheep.
Oh.
Real life sheep this is going to be. So,
CGI probably.
Nope, not these days. Sheep are getting pretty good at acting.
Okay.
Did you not see Rams?
No.
Okay.
I saw Lamb.
Oh, yeah, that was a good acting sheep, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was so good. It was almost human.
So there you go. But anyway, it's going to be a live-action comedy about a shepherd played by Hugh Jackman who dies under mysterious circumstances, leaving his flock of sheep to solve the case. And the synopsis for...
So he's not even the star of it.
He's not. He just dies, and then the sheep
like
take
5 minutes
over.
in, and the A-lister dies, and then it's just sheep.
Yeah, it's just sheep. It's going to be fantastic. So you can see why I chose this story to read out. So the synopsis for the film adds, the local cop Tim Derry, played by Nicholas Braun, has apparently never solved a serious crime in his life, so the sheep conclude that they will have to solve it themselves, even if it means leaving their meadow for the first time and facing the fact that the human world isn't as simple as it appears in books.
But you know who should direct that?
Who?
George Miller.
Yes, absolutely.
He's got form.
He does have form.
With the animal.
It really does sound like
films.
Yeah, it really does sound
He
like
could set it in Australia. Hugh Jackman.
Australian sheep.
Exactly.
Ah.
He could motion capture the sheep. Could get Andy Serkis. Could play all of the sheep by himself single-handedly.
Yeah, don't make that new Hobbit film, Andy Serkis.
Yeah.
Make this thing about
Play
sheep.
a flock of sheep.
An entire flock. Everyone. So, yeah, I can't wait for that. It's going to be executive produced by Phil Lord and Chris Miller. So that's cool. And, yeah, it's going to be out in February 2026. February 20th, 2026. Just the day after my birthday. So that'll be a fine gift. Yeah, that sounds right up my street. There's also going to be a new Wallace and Gromit with, you know,
yeah, I saw.
Yeah, Feathers McGraw is going to return, so that's exciting.
Ooh, is it going to be a feature length?
It is a 70-minute adventure, if you can call that feature length. Technically, it's a film, and it's going to be called Vengeance Most Foul. Get it? Foul.
Yeah.
Because he's.
How come all your news is animal related?
I don't know. It's just the way. It's happened this week.
Just the way of the world.
I mean, if I had my way, the entire news section would be animal based every week.
Wow. If you would like a completely animal based news section, do email us in at pictureshow@brumradio.com.
Well, you know they would.
I don't know.
Our most popular section on the show was celebrity dog names, so that's clearly what people want. They don't want this film nonsense. They want.
Well, if you disagree, do let us know.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. It's going to have Reece Shearsmith in. He's great, isn't he? So
Reece Shearsmith.
Exactly. I hadn't even thought of that. Although I didn't say if there's going to be sheep in the Wallace and Gromit films. Just mentioned penguins.
There was if Sean returns,
exactly. There have been sheep.
Or Reece Shearsmith could be in that George Miller directed Hugh Jackman sheep movie.
Exactly.
So come on,
get on it. Get on it, guys. There we go. And I suppose as a Birmingham-based film podcast, we should probably mention that the Peaky Blinders movie has been officially greenlit at Netflix. So there's been talk of this for a while. I think Stephen Knight pretty much confirmed it when he was at the celebrity shindig that Nadine was in attendance.
Well, what is said between me and Stephen stays between me and Stephen. So, can neither confirm nor deny.
You've been very good at keeping strum about the Peaky Blinders news. But yeah, it is happening officially now. Cillian Murphy is officially going to be back, and it is going to be filming just around the corner in Digbeth, apparently. So that's exciting.
I am available for work.
As am I.
Yeah, I'd love to. I could fetch the tea and coffee.
Yeah. And I could tell everybody about animal news.
I don't think that's an official job.
It will be.
Anyway, moving swiftly on.
So there you go. That's exciting, I suppose. Will that do for the news section this week? I suppose it will. So there you go. Some news about nepotism and some news about farmyard animals. Well, a penguin's not a farmyard animal, but...
Well... Depends on what you're farming.
That's true. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and today we're talking about Nepo babies. That's right, the watched by Ishana Night Shyamalan, daughter of M. Night Shyamalan, got us thinking at the Brum Picture Show, nepotism, eh? Maybe we should do an episode on that. So, I mean, I'm not sure if we need to explain it, but Nadine, what's a Nepo baby?
Well, it's basically a child of somebody else who's gotten a leg up in the industry that they're working in from their famous parent or other family member. So it's nepotism, basically.
Yeah.
This was a big thing on TikTok for a while. A lot of Gen Z were shocked to learn how many of their favourite celebs were in fact Nepo babies. And Vulture did a brilliant article. 2022 was declared the year of the Nepo baby, I believed. And they kind of blew it wide open. And it's kind of, I would say, it'd be harder to find somebody in Hollywood at this point who isn't in some way a Nepo baby. Some of them are quite shocked. Some of them are a bit, perhaps, peripheral figures to the industry. Some of them a bit children of sort of journalists and other kind of, jobs where you think, okay, fair enough, maybe that wasn't a huge advantage to getting into the industry. And then some people are like, got their first job because their godparent was Steven Spielberg, Gwyneth Paltrow. So, yeah, that's what a Nepo baby is. But I think, why is this important and why are we talking about it now? Well, there was a recent study in the UK saying that 48% of Brits identified as working class, but the screen industry employed less than 10%. And that is a massive difference. And it's a huge problem. We're just as bad over here. This is not just a Hollywood problem. We have our acting dynasties of the Foxes and the Redgraves. So, yeah, it is a massive problem because if you're an average person, it's really, really hard to break into the industry and even hard to maintain a career in the industry. But if you're, the son or daughter or child of a famous person, you got a leg up.
You do have a leg up, but still, I think they do have to have some kind of talent. Or do they? Well,
yeah, because nepotism isn't just something that happens in movies or music or fashion. It can happen in any industry. But I think why people are so bothered by it is that I think there's this idea that the arts are a meritocracy and that you have to be talented to get by. And we're not saying none of these people are talented, but there's definitely cases of Nepo babies that have not the most amount of talent, shall we say. There are degrees of Nepo babies. So there's some people who quite obviously are fantastic at what they do. And there's some people that you kind of like, how did they get there again? But I think what people just want them to acknowledge is that, they've had it easier than other people. It doesn't mean they've had it completely easy. It doesn't mean they haven't worked for what they've got, but they've had a head start.
Certainly. I guess Nepo baby is used as a derogatory term a lot of the time. Do you agree?
Well, some people have proudly claimed the term. Jamie Lee Curtis has called herself the OG Nepo baby.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Daughter of Janet Leigh and Tony Curtis.
Yeah, that's pretty Nepo-y.
Yeah, and let's not forget that her first movie was Halloween, a horror movie, and her mother was famous as the actress from Psycho. And she acknowledges that, somebody probably thought it'd be good to have the daughter of Janet Leigh in a horror movie. It might help with the marketing.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that she's not a good actress. She recently won an Oscar. But, and she's even dressed up as her mother at events and things like that. So she completely acknowledges her parents. So I think it can be used in that way. But at the end of the day, in terms of slurs, I think Nepo baby is on the soft side, isn't it? There are worse things that you could be called.
I suppose so. But I do think it's a little bit unfair to kind of dismiss people because they've come from prestige.
Well, again, we're not dismissing people because these are some of, these are Oscar-winning actors. These are some of these. We'll talk about some of our favourite Nepo babies later on. So,
we will indeed.
Some of in fact, it seems hard to avoid Nepo babies. There's just so many of them.
They're ubiquitous, you might
they're
say.
So ubiquitous, yeah. You can't avoid them, but I think we need to acknowledge they exist. And, there's a lot of talk about diversity and inclusion in the industry. And there's lots, often I see people complaining online about, the diversity hire or the token hire or initiatives that are helping, certain people over others. But often they're not successful because the industry is still not very inclusive. Statistics show that. But, you can't complain about that but be perfectly fine about nepotism. I think the whole point that there is a drive to be more inclusive is because most people, and especially those from, less advantaged backgrounds, find it so difficult to break into the industry. So it's about leveling the playing field. And so I think that's just something that people need to be aware of, is just how difficult it is to break in and how much free work you're expected to do just to get established. And if you need to pay the bills like most of us do, that's an impossible task to sort of work for free until eventually, or to go to a prestigious school. Many of these Nepo babies have gone to really prestigious schools, which are out of reach for most people. So, I think it's just acknowledging that. And many of these Nepo babies, they're from privileged white backgrounds. Very few. There are some Nepo babies who aren't from white backgrounds, but it is the majority. So I think it is part of the problem of why the industry lacks diversity, whether it's class, whether it's race. I think it is an issue.
But we're certainly not saying that that children of celebrities should be banned from the entertainment industry.
No, we're just acknowledging it, and I think it's just. I mean, there's a fun side of it of like, who's your favourite Nepo baby, and sort of discovering who is actually a Nepo baby that you wouldn't have thought of. But again, it is a wider discussion of why the arts are so closed off to people, and any industry, any high level jobs, how difficult it is, for people like you and me to get into.
Yes, indeed. What do you think about what Lily Allen has to say about the concept of the Nepo baby? So you look like you know this quote. She said in an interview recently, she is, of course, the daughter of British actor Keith Allen. She says that Nepo babies, I think it's quite like Karen, in the sense that it's just a word that is basically used for women who are taking up space and we'd rather they didn't and they should just go away. My brother, Alfie Allen, for instance, doesn't get called Nepo baby, and I do. I mean, I'm pretty sure people do call Alfie Allen a Nepo baby, but what do you say to that, Nadine?
I think probably Alfie Allen isn't famous enough yet to have warranted. He was in Game of Thrones, but I don't know. I've not seen him in anything since. I'm sure he's working regularly.
He presents the Brum Picture Show, don't you know?
I didn't know what.
I've been compared to him a lot in my life. Did you not know this?
Not Gareth Edwards.
No, I've been compared to Alfie Allen way more than I have Gareth Edwards.
Well, obviously, I need to go and Google what Alfie Allen looks like.
Me?
I'd be... But I think... I don't know about this. It'd be interesting to go through a list of Nepo babies and count how many are male and how many are female. But certainly there are a lot of male Nepo babies. But there might be some truth in that. But I think she's missing the point a little bit there. Gwyneth Paltrow said that she had a lot of success really young as the child of someone. You get access other people don't have. So she's acknowledged that. So the playing field is not level in that way. However, she said, I really do feel that once your foot is in the door, which you unfairly got in, then you almost have to work twice as hard and be twice as good. I don't know if that's true, but I suppose if you want to shake off that label, then you kind of do. But my favourite quote from any Nepo baby, and I think this is how all Nepo babies should respond, is from Alison Williams, who stars in Get Out. She got her start in Girls, which was probably one of the first things to really kick off the Nepo baby sort of debate, and we'll get into that later. But basically, everybody in Girls is a Nepo baby of some sort. But her response is that all that people are looking for is an acknowledgement that it's not a level playing field. It's just unfair, period. End of the story. And no one's really working that hard to make it fair. To acknowledge that, me getting started as an actress versus someone with zero connections isn't the same. It's ludicrous. It doesn't take anything away from the work that I've done. It just means that it's not as fun to root for me. And I say, fair enough, Alison Williams.
Yeah.
And her dad's a news anchor as well and journalist, which is obviously, very high profile, but he's not a Hollywood actor. So it's not like, the Douglases, Kirk Douglas and his son, Michael Douglas, or the Cronenbergs. So I think at least she's gone into a different area. Yeah,
for sure. And just going back to what you're saying about Nepo babies having a sense of perspective and realising their place and their privilege, reminds me of this isn't quite a film-related thing, although there's Beatles films. Ringo's son, apparently, when he was asked about forming a Beatles sons band, he said, well, if we'd spent 3 years sleeping on flea-infested mattresses in the back room of a Hamburg club, it might have chemistry, but we've been swaddled in silken robes in houses so big that it's too far to go and make a piece of toast. So, I like that. He knows where he's come from.
Acknowledge that you have some privilege. Acknowledge that you're not working as hard as, someone who's grown up in social housing. That's something really interesting, actually. There's been a campaign by Shelter recently of sort of well-known people who have grown up in social housing. And I was really surprised. I've grown up in social housing myself. I live in social housing currently. And it is something that is sometimes seen as shameful. But you had people like Suggs. Suggs grew up in social housing. I didn't know that. So he's one of the few cases of someone who's obviously found social mobility. And I think if we celebrated people like that as much, people like Stephen Graham and, people who have, really had to work twice as hard. Samantha Morton grew up in care. She's a fantastic actress. She's worked with some of the greats. She's worked with Spielberg. Let's celebrate the non-Nepo babies.
Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and today we are talking about Nepo babies. So we've had a bit of a broad overview about what Nepo babies are and frankly just how common they are in Hollywood. So Nadine has been doing lots of research and she's been blowing this wide open.
Oh, just falling into a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Nepo baby rabbit hole.
The more she keeps digging, the more she finds. So yes, Nadine, do you want to report some of your findings to us?
Well, I thought I'd talk about some surprising Nepo babies. 'Cause there's some that came up in my research that really shocked me. This one, now it's a good job Rory isn't here.
Yes, it is.
Because I think this would really, really, upset him.
Oh, yeah.
Rob Reiner
Yeah.
is a Nepo baby.
Yeah, he is.
Son of Carl Reiner, director of The Jerk, Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, and many other comedy films. So he didn't, the apple didn't fall very far from the tree there, I'd say.
Yeah, Rob Reiner, you unoriginal man. Do something else.
This Ridley Scott was it? Now, Ridley Scott is someone who, didn't grow up in the industry, worked hard, went to art school, and, found his way in. He did drag his brother in, Tony Scott, and his sons now work at Scott Free, the production company that he owns. So but at least he started a dynasty. So that's something. So he didn't get in sort of with any connections from his parents, but he's making them now for the rest of his brood. But yeah, so Rob Reiner was a surprising one for me. Daniel Radcliffe. Yeah, now, I mean, in a way, not as surprising. If you start off as a child actor, it makes sense that your parents might be at least adjacent to the industry or interested. But, his mom is a casting director and his dad is also an actor. Now, I think he was an excellent child actor and he's grown up to be a very interesting adult actor. But contrast his rise to Harry Potter superstardom with co-star Rupert Grint, who'd never acted professionally before Harry Potter and saw an open casting call on Newsround. And that's how he became famous. And before that, he wanted to be an ice cream man. And when he made his Harry Potter millions, he bought an ice cream van. That's all true facts. Have you found any Nepo babies, surprising Nepo babies in your research?
Actually, I mean, this is probably ridiculous that I didn't realise this, but I didn't actually realise John David Washington was Denzel Washington's son. I had no idea. I thought he was just a talented young actor who just popped up out of nowhere.
It doesn't look like his dad, but people say sounds like him. He's got a similar voice.
Yeah, I guess so when you think about it. But yeah, that genuinely came as a surprise to me because I really like John David Washington. I think he's great. And
he's a good actor.
Yeah, he's going to go on to do some good things, I think. But yeah, I had no idea.
Interestingly, he starred in a film by another Nepo baby.
Oh, yeah.
Who was Sam Levinson of Euphoria fame. So, Nepo babies helping each other out. That's all I'm saying.
Oh.
Interestingly, I found out recently that Maya Rudolph is also kind of a Nepo baby. I had no idea. Her mother is Minnie Riperton of I can't do it's too high for me, but she sang the song Loving You.
Okay.
And Richard Rudolph, who was also a musician. Now, they're musicians. She's a comedian. Her mother did pass away when she was very young. And she celebrates her mother. She often dresses up as her mother. So you might say, okay, not the biggest Nepo baby. Having said that, her partner, Paul Thomas Anderson, recently made the film Licorice Pizza, and that is, a very big Nepo baby film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly.
Written for Philip Seymour Hoffman's son and a daughter of a friend of his as well, from the band Haim, Alana Haim. So if he hadn't known their parents, he wouldn't even have written that film. So that film was written especially for Nepo babies. And Maya Rudolph also stars in that film. So that's, a very Nepo-heavy film. Probably not the most Nepo-heavy film. I think one of the most Nepo-heavy films has got to be Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Ah, yes.
Which is just, I don't even know where to start, but basically pretty much everybody in that is a Nepo baby.
Mm-hmm. Maya Hawke's in there.
Yeah. Lena Dunham. Emil Hirsch. Dakota Fanning. Oh, just so many. Just look it up. There's just so many. I can't name all the Nepo babies. Oh yeah, Margaret Qualley.
Yes.
It'd be harder to find someone in that film who isn't a Nepo baby. But yeah, those are some of the surprising Nepo babies that I found in my research.
You see, I like it when they're surprising ones. The ones that don't,
not obvious.
Yeah, don't try and capitalize. Like, because Riley Keough is, of course, Elvis Presley's granddaughter, daughter of Lisa Marie Presley. But she doesn't
use the Presley name.
Yeah, she doesn't use the name. She doesn't make a point of that, and she's great. She's the A24 queen.
Well, there's a lot of Nepo babies who've tried to shaken off the label. So Nick Cage. As we said,
course.
Part of the Coppola dynasty, took his name from Luke Cage, his favourite Marvel character.
Yeah.
But he said he was, in his first film that he did, he went by his birth name, Coppola, and he just said there were so many, he was getting teased and bullied about it, and so he decided to change his name and sort of hasn't looked back since. Emilio Estevez, son of Martin Sheen. Now, interestingly, Martin Sheen's original name is Estevez.
Ah.
So he changed it to sort of anglicise his name, but he's of Spanish descent. So Emilio kept his birth name, whereas his brother Charlie Sheen used his father's stage name. And another one surprising, not really film industry related, but I was surprised to find that Norah Jones is the daughter of Ravi Shankar.
Yeah, that's great. But yeah, she's not making a song and dance about that.
Yeah.
Song and dance.
So, maybe that's what all Nepo babies should do. Having said that, I think sometimes acknowledging that you have famous parents and you've had a leg up is perhaps even better than sort of distancing yourself from it. And I think, there's some Nepo babies where it's like, are they really Nepo babies? I know Meghan Markle. Her father was a lighting technician, and she sort of laughed off this label of being a Nepo baby because she says no one's hiring you because your dad, lit some TV show. Having said that, she was invited onto set of Married with Children as a child, and I think having that kind of access, being able to learn from observation, there is an advantage. And she married into the biggest Nepo family of all, the royal family.
Oh, of course, yes. Who's that?
So we've got to acknowledge that. Having said that, obviously Harry has stepped away from his family. There's been a bit of a rift there. But I think we have to acknowledge, would anybody be interested in his book or his TV show if he wasn't a former royal?
No.
So,
There we go. There we go.
We've originated the nepotism over here.
We invented
It's
it.
interesting how we completely accept that in the royal family. Like, no, that's completely normal.
Well, I wouldn't say a lot of people do completely accept that. But
A lot of
yeah.
people do. Perhaps younger people today are finding it less acceptable.
Imagine if the entirety of Hollywood was based on bloodlines, and you just couldn't be in the industry unless you were.
Unless you could trace your lineage back.
I wonder what the
That'd be
quality of films would be like.
Well, it's interesting because maybe that's part of why it's a thing in Hollywood, because they don't have a royal family. You know, the president can only serve for 2 terms. That doesn't mean there isn't nepotism. Look at the Bushes.
That's true.
And the Trumps.
And the Trumps, yes.
Yeah, very Nepo families. And we've seen even, Hollywood has started to address this in TV. We've had shows like Succession, which has been hugely successful. That's apparently inspired by the Murdoch Nepo dynasty. And one of my favourites, Arrested Development, my favourite Nepo family, my favourite fictional Nepo family, the Bluth family. So that's some of the kind of interesting Nepos. Lena Dunham, we've mentioned her before. She's an actress, she's a director, she does all sorts. Her parents were artists, so sort of think fine art. So she doesn't really see herself as a Nepo baby. She did go to a very prestigious school, though. And her TV show that she wrote and directed, Girls, is just stacked with Nepos. So Alison Williams, we spoke about her. Her dad was a news anchor, maybe on the lower end of the Nepo scale. And then we've got Jemima Kirk, whose musician dad is Simon Kirk. Again, not in the acting world. But then we have Zosha Mamet, who is a 4th generation Nepo.
Yes.
I've traced her lineage back to her great-grandfather. But her dad is David Mamet, screenwriter and playwright. So she comes from a long sort of playwright lineage family. And there may be other Nepos in that show as well. Funny enough, Donald Glover also starred in that show. And I don't know if I watched an interview with him or Lena Dunham, who said he was the son of Danny Glover. And I was really shocked. I thought, is that why he's famous? But apparently that is a joke, and he isn't the son of Danny Glover. So he's one person in Hollywood who isn't a Nepo baby. But perhaps people have assumed that he's a Glover. I don't know. But he's very talented, and I think, has obviously got where he has on his own steam. We can't say as much for many of the Hollywood.
So what's the best kind of... Is the best kind of Nepo baby the kind of Nepo baby that becomes more famous than their parents and just becomes gods in their own right? Like Robert Downey Jr. He may be Robert Downey Jr., but I'd say he's certainly more famous than Robert Downey.
You could say that about Cuba Gooding Jr.
Yes.
His dad was a musician. His son is also a Nepo baby. And he's starred in Booksmart. So,
There you go. And of course, George Clooney, Nepo baby, but...
Rosemary Clooney
was
his auntie.
Yeah. But I'd say George has definitely come out on top there.
Well, maybe this is a good place to segue into our favourite Nepo
I think
babies.
it might be. So, Nadine, who are your favourite Nepo babies?
Well, I'm just going to quickly read out a little poll that I did on Instagram first. So I'm going to tell you my favourites, but I asked the internet, I asked my followers on Instagram.
Your millions and
my
millions.
My millions and millions. I've got a few.
Oh, I don't doubt it.
I asked my followers who their favourite and who their least favourite Nepo babies were. So I'm going to give you their favourite first. So my followers' favourite Nepo babies are Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yes.
Daughter of Ron Howard. And she's very talented as a director and an actress. Jack Quaid, one of my followers said they had no idea who his dad was when they saw him in The Boys.
Presumably Dennis.
Yes. And his mum is Meg Ryan.
Oh.
And my sister, her favourite Nepo baby is Jamie Lee Curtis. Now, none of these have made my list, I don't think. But yeah, here's my top 5.
Okay.
This is really hard, actually. And I'm now that I'm looking at it, I'm sort of one like I really love the Gyllenhaals. I really love the Batemans, who are also Nepo siblings and Nepo babies. But I'm going to go number 5, Jennifer Aniston, soap star dad, and her godfather was Telly Savalas.
Oh.
Her original family name was a Greek name, but was changed to Aniston to be more anglicised. But she's someone who's probably surpassed her father's, fame as a soap star. Number 4, Mark Ronson. I just really like Mark Ronson. I think he's so hilarious.
What's he got to do with films?
He's an Oscar-winning composer
All right.
of A Star is Born, won an Oscar, and also was nominated this year again.
All right.
So I think he counts.
All right, I'll give you
But
that.
he's even more Nepo
Oh, yeah.
because his best friends is Sean Oko Lennon, and his wife is Grace Gummer. And you might be thinking, who's Grace Gummer?
I might, and I am.
Meryl Streep's daughter.
Dun, dun, dun.
So he's like full up in the Nepo-verse.
Yeah.
Number 3 might come as a shock to some. Nicholas Winding Refn.
Oh.
Yes, his parents very much in the film industry in his native Denmark. Having said that, I don't think they would approve of any of his films. I think the type of films that he made, he has definitely made a distinctive sort of breakaway from his parents. Having said that, he has directed a Miss Marple episode and produced The Famous Five recently.
That's mad, isn't it?
On BBC. Wow. Maybe the parents will approve of that. And number 2, now this was so hard. So I've got like a joint number 2 here. I don't know if that's allowed, but I'm doing it. So I've got Sofia Coppola and Jason Schwartzman, who is also a Coppola. But I could have just put the Coppola dynasty. And they've definitely had advantages. Jason Schwartzman was cast in Rushmore, his debut film. I think he was at a party, with his famous cousin, Sophia. And that's kind of how he got cast in that role. However, he's bloody brilliant in it. I can't imagine anybody else in that part. And last year was nominated as Letterboxd Favourite Actor by Letterboxd users. So I do like Jason Schwartzman, and he writes and he does other stuff. Sophia, yep, she's got a famous dad, but she's created her own aesthetic. She's one of the few women to have been nominated for Oscar for Best Director. I think she's put the work in. She's definitely grown up on film sets, had advice from her dad. She's had advantages, but I think she's very talented and quite inspiring as I'm a female director as well. So yeah, that's my number 2. My number 1 favourite Nepo baby, Jane Fonda. Now I say this because I think she's done what Nepo babies should do rather than complaining about being called Nepo babies, is she's actually used her platform to advocate for other people. So yes, she's starred in films like Barbarella and 9 to 5, but she's an activist, she's a protester, she's used her work. She actually produced 9 to 5 and she was inspired. She had a friend who had an organisation in Boston called 9 to 5 and they were working with women office workers. And she wanted to make a feminist film and she'd heard them talking about their work and some of their great stories and some of the troubles that they had to deal with as secretaries and how they weren't appreciated. And she decided that they should write a screenplay which shows that you can run an office without a boss, but you can't run an office without secretaries. And she was really keen that it wasn't too preachy. That's part of why she wanted to do it as a comedy. She really wanted it to be feminist, but she wanted, she didn't want people to sort of be turned off by the message of the film. So I think, fair enough, Jane. I think this is what I think Nepo Baby should do. Mentor disadvantaged people who are trying to get into the industry. Maybe make a film like Jane Fonda, supporting people to get in the industry. Use your platform for something good. don't just moan about how hard it is having famous parents.
Very good. Yes, very right on,
Yes.
Nadine.
I won't go through my whole list of least favourites, but Lawrence Fox.
Oh.
And I don't think I have to explain why. But yeah, some of his views and my followers' least favourite Nepo babies, Charlie Sheen and Dakota Johnson, who I quite like.
Yeah. Very
There
good.
you go. Your turn. Who are your favourites?
It's got to be Jeff Bridges. I love Jeff Bridges so much. And of course, he is son of Lloyd Bridges, who, admittedly, I think the only thing I've seen with Lloyd Bridges is Airplane. He is famously the man who picked the wrong time to quit sniffing glue.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Yeah. That is Jeff Bridges' dad. So, yeah, I love Jeff Bridges to pieces. Of course, Laura Dern, because I'm a Lynch fanboy. And, Laura Dern is David Lynch's muse, I think. So yeah, that's pretty great. Michael Douglas. I love Michael Douglas. And he's son of Kirk Douglas, obviously. And he's possibly, I don't know, Kirk Douglas is still pretty big. But, he's dead. But
he carved his own.
Yeah.
Like he's managed to have the longevity that I think people are no longer like, oh, your dad's famous.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I suppose, in a way, it's a generational thing, isn't it? Because, obviously older people are going to remember, Kirk Douglas, but maybe next generation don't even...
They're like, it's the guy from Ant-Man.
Yeah, they probably barely know who Michael Douglas is. So it's all relative, I suppose.
Indeed.
Oh, that's good, isn't it? And then I'm going to go George Clooney, because I love George Clooney. And I'm going to go Margaret Qualley, actually, because she's making some really interesting choices, and I like what she's popping up in. I obviously loved Poor Things. She's great in that, although I guess she didn't have a massive role. But also, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and a lovely film. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but it's Stars at Noon. I really like, which is a Claire Denis film, and she plays a journalist trapped in Nicaragua during the COVID-19 pandemic, and I'm just really intrigued to see what else she does, because every time I see her I'm like, she's good.
Who's her famous parents?
Oh, Andy McDowell, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should mention that. Andy McDowell and
whoever her dad is.
Whoever her dad is. Mr. Qualley. I'm sure he's famous
she'll
too.
She'll be popping up in Kinds of Kindness, which will be the next Yorgos Lanthimos movie.
Yes, of
Emma
course.
Stone. So we'll be able to, maybe she'll have a bigger part in that.
Yeah, maybe. But yes, least favourite Nepo babies. Without a doubt, Jaden Smith. Because what are you doing? Rapping and acting? You're not your dad.
Well, that's funny, because we're going to talk about Ishana. M. Night Shyamalan, Will Smith and Jaden Smith directed a film.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Not a very good film.
Not a very good film. Not made that connection at all. But yes, he really bothers me, his existence. It's just, just do something else. But yes, I suppose we should wrap this section up on Nepo babies. But yes, what are we saying? What point are we trying to make today about Nepo babies?
Well, I think I've said it. If you are a Nepo baby, do something good with it. And acknowledge that you've had a leg up, and try and help some people that aren't Nepo babies to get into the industry. And let's have some more effective, real meaningful change and real meaningful inclusion in the industry, because we've been talking about it for years, but the statistics don't lie. None of the schemes and none of the talk has really moved the dial very much. So if you're a Nepo baby, come on. Give me a job. Give us a leg up. Mentor me, or other people, And again, let's celebrate the non-Nepos. People like Suggs, who grew up in social housing and made something of himself. Or Ridley Scott, who pulled himself up by his own bootstraps and brought along the rest of his family with him.
Yeah.
But, come on.
There we go.
Bit of mobility, bit of social mobility.
Yeah. A rare, serious point that we're making on the Brum Picture Show today. You are listening to the Brum Picture Show on Brum Radio, and we've been talking about nepotism today and Nepo babies. And now it is the review section, and going to be reviewing perhaps one of the most Nepo films I've ever seen. So this is The Watched, and it is from Ishana Night Shyamalan, the 24-year-old daughter of M. Night Shyamalan. So this is based on an Irish novel by A.M. Shine. So it follows Dakota Fanning, and she's an American immigrant with a troubled past working in a pet shop in Ireland for some reason. And then she is asked to deliver a valuable parrot to somewhere just outside of Belfast. So naturally, she takes a single-track unpaved road for a dense forest in order to get there. And then her car naturally breaks down, and she decides the best course of action is to walk deep into the forest, as obviously someone lives nearby. And then her car disappears, and it becomes quickly apparent that there's something spooky going on in the forest. She then comes across Olwen Fure, who takes her to the safety of an observation room in the forest, populated by some other lost souls. And they call this kind of bunker in the middle of the forest the Coop. And then she learns that not only can they not leave the forest, but their purpose in this box is to be observed by some mysterious entities who are on the other side of a two-way mirror. So, it all sounds quite intriguing, doesn't it? It's a folk horror with a little bit of The Truman Show, a little bit Cabin in the Woods, a little bit The Village, and of course, a little bit every Monster in the Woods movie you've ever seen. And it could be really fun, but unfortunately, it's just a bit rubbish. Now, to be fair, M. Night's films have always been a bit on the rubbish side, but I don't know, I feel like, especially in later years, I kind of feel that that's exactly what he's going for. So I think it kind of started with the Happening, which people really took against, very much so. But I would say that is a genuine, intentional comedy, The Happening. I think you are supposed to laugh at it.
The ending for Unbreakable was intentionally comic, but I don't think it is now.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it not? He's a tricky one to judge.
If you're not sure if it's supposed to be funny or not.
I suppose, but that's kind of like, that's the line that I think M. Night has kind of towed for a long time.
For all of his career, really.
For all of his career, but I think he's got a lot more comfortable in what he's going for, and I think Old was the perfect example of that, because it is cheesy schlock. It's like B-movie fodder, and I think it does kind of know what it's doing. Like, it knows it's silly, and, doesn't try to take itself too seriously, and it kind of works. But I don't know, this just doesn't quite get the tone right at all, and it just seems like, it doesn't seem like it's trying to be bad. It just is bad. So, like, honestly, a lot of this film feels like it was written by a child. Like genuinely, it has some of the worst exposition. And so I mentioned that there's a parrot, that for some reason Dakota Fanning has to transport across the country, across Ireland. And it's like, this parrot is really useful because it allows Dakota Fanning to spout exposition at it. And it's just like, literally, the moment she gets the parrot, she's like, "Oh, parrot, my mother passed away 15 years ago today, don't you know?" And it's just like, and then the parrot just does nothing for the whole film, and then does something in the third act that you're just like, what? It's like, why is this happening? It's just like, it's got so many unintentionally funny moments, and I believe they're unintentionally funny. I know it. It would be a spoiler to go into the plot holes in this film or why a lot of it just makes no sense whatsoever. But it is just like, it's one of those things where it's like, maybe you could have done a pass at this. Maybe you could have proofread it. Maybe you could have sat down and just thought about it for 5 minutes and then gone, oh yeah, that doesn't actually make any sense. So yeah, I don't know. There were so many moments in it that just made me just scoff and just like sigh and just go, oh God. And I felt sorry for the people kind of sat near to me, because it was kind of involuntary. It's just every now and again I'd just go, oh God, why? And then it's just got this, I suppose you shouldn't say if there's a twist in a film, because that can ruin a twist, because you're always kind of watching the film going, oh, what's the twist going to be? And you're trying to guess what the twist is.
But it's a Shyamalan movie.
It is a Shyamalan film. So, but nevertheless, I will not say if there is a twist or not. But what I will say is if there were a twist, it would be absolutely stupid. So there you go. And that's the thing. It's just a frustratingly stupid film. And I just think it needed another few drafts, at least. I went into the cinema in a bad mood, and then I came out in a worse one. I didn't like it.
Surprisingly on the fence.
Yes. Well, Nadine, you always say that I like everything.
Wow.
So there you go.
Found a film you did not like.
I did not like it.
Wow. Well,
There you go.
Nepotism is sometimes a bad thing.
So Nadine, have you watched anything recently?
Yeah, I won't get into it. I watched Swiss Army Man last night on ITVX.
Yeah?
Daniel Radcliffe is kind of a Nepo baby.
Yeah?
Although the Daniels are not, from what I could see. That must have been a confusing set.
Yeah.
Daniel, yes. Not you, Daniel. The other Daniel, yes. No, not you, Daniel. But
that's kind of how it is at Brum Radio with all the Pauls.
Wasn't my cup of tea.
No.
Very, very silly. Wasn't my humour. Bit gross for me.
If you don't like flatulence, it is not the film for you. But
very imaginative.
Yeah.
Very inventive. Mm-hmm. But also quite absurd and ridiculous in a way that just was kind of like, what is the point of any of this? I think it did have a serious point to make. It had things to say about being weird and being lonely, just in a very weird way that didn't really connect with me. But lots of people love it.
Yeah.
So my favourite Letterboxd review is a 2-star review.
Oh, yeah.
And it says, it's by Aaliyah. And she says, if the boys in primary school who went around folding their eyelids inside out to impress each other took turns writing lines for a script.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's a bit harsh.
I think if you loved Everything Everywhere All at Once, I did enjoy that film. I did find some of the humour in that not to my taste either. But if you really love that, if you like things that are out the box, inventive, if you want to see Daniel Radcliffe as a corpse, that's not a spoiler. That's like the first 5 minutes of the film. And I love Paul Dano. And Mary Elizabeth Winstead is sort of in it. Kind of blink and you miss, but she's in it too. But yeah, it wasn't for me. But different, out there, interesting.
Yeah. No, I've got quite a soft spot for that film. It is oddly moving for a film about a farting corpse. But
well, I would say it's like Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Meets Castaway.
Yeah.
Directed by Michel Gondry. I think that's probably how they pitched it.
Yeah.
To the Hollywood execs.
I can see
but
that.
I think I'd rather watch Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Which isn't trying to be anything more than it is it?
But yeah, I like Swiss Army Man more than you, I think. But I will admit it's not for everyone, and probably not one to watch with your dinner.
I thought you were going to say with your parents.
or your parents.
Depending on who your parents are, I suppose.
Yeah.
What their sense of humour is.
Exactly. So I suppose that is it for the reviews section this week. We've just got time now for Nadine's roundup of local events.
So on the 22nd of June, we'll be showing Pride at the Heath Bookshop in Kings Heath as part of Queen's Heath Pride. On the 22nd of June as well, there'll be a relaxed screening of Secret of Kells at Sturchley Baths by Sturchley Open Cinema. They'll also be showing All of Us Strangers plus Fabulous Femininities in a team-up with Journey Cinema Club, and there'll be a Q&A as well, and that'll be on the 28th of June. On the 8th of July, we'll be showing Happy Together by Wong Kar-wai at the Mockingbird. And on the 11th of July, I'm really excited for this, we're going to be showing Buena Vista Social Club 25th anniversary screening of Wim Wenders' famous documentary at the Cuban Embassy. What an amazing venue. There'll be live music. There's going to be Cuban music, Cuban cocktails, Cuban food. If you don't like Cuba,
stay away.
Give it a go anyway, and you might learn to love Cuba.
Okay. Right.
But if you like Cuba, or if you're ambivalent, then come anyway, because it's going to be a fun night. So
bring your cigars.
I think we might sell out on that one. So get your tickets now. Ticketsource.co.uk/screen-B14. Feckenodian will be showing Paul, not our Paul,
Oh.
but the film Paul, at the Feckin Odeon in Feckenham Village Hall on the 19th of July. And on the 24th of July, whatever pays the rent will be showing But I'm a Cheerleader at the Hare and Hounds as part of the new 90-minute film club. So those are my roundup of news and events. And do check out the Safar Film Festival at the Mac. Going to be a number of different films from the Arab world, the Middle East. Yeah, check that out because that sounds really cool as well.
Very good. Thank you very much, Nadine. That sounds like an awful lot of exciting things going on. I suppose that's it, isn't it? That's about all we got time for this week on the Brum Picture Show. Thank you for joining us. Do join us next time when we'll be talking about other things. It's goodbye from me, Paul.
It's goodbye from me, Nadine.
And that's it, because it's just us now.
It's goodbye from me, the Nepo baby.
Yay! Goodbye.
You have been listening to The Brum Picture Show, a Screen B14 production for Brum Radio. Tune in next time for more film fun, and don't forget to email us at pictureshow@brumradio.com. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
Any listener emails?
Yeah, Chris Davies. Yeah, should I read that?
Is it worth reading?
It's up to you.
Well, you're the one who knows what's in it.
Well, I'm reading through it now. It's just a rebuttal of what I said about Star Wars. I'll just leave it.
Okay, all right.
Thank you for listening to this Brum Radio podcast. Don't forget to subscribe and rate us on your podcast app.